name is Shauna, in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. So in case you don't know, I have a disability. I have a couple chronic illnesses. The major one that prevents me from functioning like a normal person is POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So with POTS, I have trouble standing up and being vertical, and I have the possibility of passing out, and so because of this, I have to use accommodations at conventions a lot, so Comic-Cons. I will be talking in today's video about what accommodations at Comic-Cons look like, how to navigate them. I'll try to talk about each convention that I've gone to specifically that I have used accommodations at. I don't always use accommodations at conventions because some days I feel pretty good and I can navigate the whole convention without accommodations, but some days I need to really heavily rely on them. So for the ones that I have used accommodations for, I will be talking about them in detail. So first of all, Comic-Cons have to accommodate you. It is just the law. And I mean, your accommodations have to be within reason. You can't go to the convention and talk to the workers there and say, oh, I need one of your workers to carry my bags of stuff that I got at the convention. Like, that's not the type of accommodations that you can get. You can get things like quiet spaces, bringing in different medical devices that you might need, sitting on chairs more frequently if you need to. Like, there is accommodations available, but it has to be within reason. The biggest accommodation that I use and that a lot of other people use at conventions is skipping lines, and it doesn't always mean going to the front of the line. Sometimes it means just sitting in a chair until you are at the end of the line and going last in the photo op, which is always a little strange when that happens, but it's okay because that's how some conventions do it. Or some conventions will shove you in between premium and the people who pay general admission. Generally, they're going to have chairs for you to sit in. You just need to tell them that you have a disability and go sit in the chairs. A lot of conventions require that you get a disability wristband or a little sticker on your badge so they know that you have a disability, and so that you can just show that to them and prove that you have a disability so that you can go and sit down or whatever. This is accommodation I use the most, so I'll tell you a little bit about what it looks like for each specific convention. So for Wizard World, I know that they're trying to transition over to Fan Expo, but I have done some Wizard World events and used this accommodation. They had chairs that I sat in, and I went last in line when I used accommodations for this, but I was sitting in a chair the whole time, so it was okay. I wasn't about to pass out because I was sitting down. Wizard World / Fan Expo I hope will improve with the new management of Fan Expo, because they didn't have any stickers and it was very hard to get their attention when I used this to say like, hey, I need help, I can't stand in this insanely long line for the photo. Washington Summer Con up in Puyallup didn't have super strong accommodations set in place, which I understand because they've only been going on for a few years, but they did have chairs. So the person I was with, so technically my handler, but it was someone that I was related to, she stood in line and held my spot in line while I sat in a chair, and then once she got to the front of the line, I got up and went there for my photo op. At Rose City Comic Con, they have chairs. You go to the front of the line, you sit in the chair, and you're first up to go to the photos. Emerald City Comic Con, same concept. Ace Comic Con technically is the same concept, but their staff was not very friendly to people with disabilities. I almost missed my photo op because they put me in the wrong section. I was in a wheelchair. They were not good with my wheelchair. Like, they shoved me away from my mom temporarily and the wheelchair started rolling. Luckily I could move my legs so I could stop myself, but they were very not good with accommodations. Leaky Con, they didn't have chairs for me to sit in, but I sat on the ground and that worked out okay, or I was in my wheelchair one of the days and that worked out fine. So yeah, those are the ones that I've used accommodations at for conventions. As you can see, some are better at accommodating disabilities than others, and I don't really have a desire to go to Ace Comic Con anymore because they were not very good with accommodations. The next thing is that they have to let you bring in medical devices and liquids that you need. So I almost wasn't allowed to bring in what I need to bring in to Ace Comic Con because they were trying to get me to throw out a drink that I had. However, for me personally, I can't eat solid food, so I have to bring in protein drinks, and I can't drink normal water because it's really hard to get normal water down when I'm nauseous. And when I'm doing these big excursions outside the house, my nausea increases, and so I definitely have to have something carbonated or something with flavor. So Ace Comic Con was basically trying to throw out this carbonated water I had. They were like, no, you can't bring that in, it's not normal water, and I had to like advocate for myself and be like, I have a disability. I can't drink normal water. So I was like, if I don't bring this in, I'm gonna get dehydrated because I'm not gonna be able to get enough fluid into me. So sometimes it's hard because you have to advocate for yourself sometimes, but you really should be allowed to bring in whatever food or drink you need, and they can't deny you that. Like, just be forceful, explain your situation. You shouldn't have to explain your situation often. Like, it's technically illegal for them to ask, what is your disability? But if they are trying to deny you your accommodations, I recommend speaking up for yourself and talking about what your disability disability is, because I find that if they're trying to deny you because they don't think you're disabled or because they don't want to accommodate you, sort of explaining your situation sort of makes them feel like they have to accommodate you more, so that's helpful. For autographs, the accommodations are very similar to what they do for photo ops. All conventions should have some place for wheelchairs to get to different levels. Whether that be ramps or elevators, they should have some sort of accommodation. Conventions also oftentimes have quiet rooms where if you have some sort of disability where you'll get overstimulated or where you just need to lay down for a little while, you can go to one of these quiet rooms. These quiet rooms are not always put on the map. They're not always advertised. So sometimes this requires you to email them ahead of time and say, hey, do you have any quiet rooms that I could lay down in when I'm getting overstimulated or tired? And a lot of times it will be accommodating. I remember that LeakyCon was super accommodating and helped the people like figure out the rooms ahead of time. For Emerald City Comic Con, I looked on the map and they actually put on the map where the quiet room was. I haven't checked out quiet rooms for the other conventions because I don't use quiet rooms. However, I'm sure that other conventions do have quiet rooms. You just have to talk to them ahead of time to make sure that they have one in place. In terms of the most accommodating conventions, LeakyCon is the most accommodating one that you will ever go to. I highly recommend going to LeakyCon if you have a disability and if you like Harry Potter, because it is so just awesome and welcoming to be there. At LeakyCon, people interact with you more when you're in a wheelchair. They interact with you more if you have a disability. They are just such an accepting community of all the attendees that go there. There's different levels of accommodations at LeakyCon, so there's like different stickers that you get indicating what accommodations you can get, and some make it so that you can go in the front row at the panels, and there is people there, like people who have disabilities and people who are like staff and volunteers there who will help you understand what your sticker means for your accommodations. So like I wasn't using the accommodation to go to the front of the room, and then when the volunteers came over because she saw my badge and she was explaining to me that I could go up to the front, I decided not to, because sometimes I feel bad using disability accommodations because I don't appear disabled, if that makes any sense. So she was just helping me understand my sticker more. Like they were so accommodating. And the thing at conventions that's a little hard for me when I use accommodations is, as I said, I don't look disabled to just general people who look at me unless I have my wheelchair with me. And so sometimes I get like judgmental stares. Like at the last convention that I was at, Emerald City Comic Con, I had some people who were giving me some not so pleasant looks while I was waiting in a chair, and they were like premium, so it seemed like they wanted to be like front of the line, and they seemed to be like judging me for like going ahead of them in line. It's something that's hard to deal with, and I'm still trying to work on just redefining what disability means for me, because sometimes I feel like I'm not struggling as much as other people, and so I feel like I shouldn't use accommodations, and I'm just trying to really fight with myself for what I need and redefine for myself what disability means. And at some point you just gotta learn to ignore the people who are giving you judgmental looks. Like if the staff is accommodating, that's all that matters. They can't control the people that will be there, so just ignore them. But I haven't had anyone physically come up to me and say anything bad to me about the fact that I don't look like I have a disability. So like conventions are generally a fun and accepting place to be. You won't get any ableist comments. You might get some looks, but I doubt you'll get any ableist comments. And if you do get any ableist comments, I highly recommend reaching out to the Comic-Con via email. And with all these Comic-Cons, they do have an email where you can reach out to them ahead of time. Sometimes they have a specific email for disabilities, sometimes it's just a generic email, like for the whole convention, but definitely reach out to them if you are wondering about specific accommodations or if you're worried. And a lot of convention centers have wheelchairs that you can borrow. I used one at Rose City Comic Con. When I reached out to LeakyCon, they were like, yeah, we have wheelchairs if you need it. So a lot of conventions will have wheelchairs if you for some reason can't bring your own wheelchair and you need it. For food allergies, sometimes I recommend bringing in your own food because sometimes convention centers don't always have the best options for people with allergies. Back when I was eating solid food, I was allergic to wheat, so like I was very limited in what I could eat at different convention centers. So yeah, I think that's basically all that I wanted to say about accommodations at conventions. I hope that you found this video informative. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. If you have any specific questions about accommodations at conventions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below and I will try to get back to you. I hope all of you have a great weekend. Until next time, goodbye.